Working on Model A Ford ignition. There's two types. There's the short shaft and the long shaft. This type here has an accompanying shaft to bring it down to the drive part. And anyway, these are spares. They're ready to go, but that's what they're going to remain as spares for the other vehicles. This is a distributor out of the vehicle that we're working on now. Sandblasted the housing, give a good cleaning up, and a quick shot of paint. Now this wire goes with there. The original wires are very much shorter, so this wraps around inside there. That has to move in order to manually time the thing with the lever on the steering wheel. So I'm reusing the old parts. They measured good with the electrical. If you're putting a wire into one of the old ones, it's really handy to have a sandblaster. You can clean that all up, check it electrically. You don't want any leakage between this part and that. And you can buy all this stuff here. You can get the new parts, and it's all available. They're very well supported. This is a little spring that fits in between the bottom plate and the timing plate. And it's so I've put a new wire in here. I've soldered this in to get the old solder out. Heat it up and hit it with a blast of compressed air, and that works well to get the old solder out. Then you have to make sure that the old solder is removed so it doesn't create a path for current. So I've checked this, and it's electrically sound now. This is where the spring fits on this bottom plate. You don't want that wire to touch that spring or the housing, because it'll create a short and dead your points. So this distributor came apart with somebody had put new points in it, so I'm just reusing those. And I've put a piece of paper inside the points here to check electrically. I've checked between here and the metal parts, and there's no shorts, so we're good so far. This is just a spare one here, in good order. Now when you're checking I'm going to reuse this 80-some-year-old capacitor again. I'm quite happy with it. So now what I'm going to do is I'll touch to there, and the needle on the analog ohmmeter will swing up a tiny bit. I'll touch it again, and it won't swing up as much because the capacitor is charged. That tells me that these capacitors are fine, even though they're very ancient. I'll gladly reuse them. So here goes. I'll see if I can focus on the screen here. So I'm touching one, and you'll see the needle move. Just a wee bit there. So that charged the capacitor. Second time I touch it, it won't move as much because it's already charged. I'll do the same to the second one. See a little blip there, and then very little because it's also good. Just for troubleshooting later, I like to go inside here and I like to put which cylinder is which. I just get in there and it's out of sight, nobody sees it. You can check your timing lobes, the point opening lobes on this little cam here. Just make sure that there's nothing worn out or anything wrong with that. This is the little screw that goes inside there for adjusting your timing. And something that I didn't know early enough, when you're putting the cable in that goes from the distributor to the firewall to the ignition switch, is don't thread this in like a pipe fitting and try and make it seal. Just run it in enough to make good contact, because otherwise the end of that is pressing on this piece here. This is where this little dimple you see here is where that touches on. So if you put a lot of force on there, you're deflecting this thing and can cause a short. And so this is where the one end of the capacitor goes. And on the distributor, you can see might be hard to see. Here's the other end of the capacitor. It fits outside here. So I use fluid film on the shaft. I sandblast the housing and this kind of stuff, and then there's the little oil dealy-wog here. So I give it a shot of fluid film. I really like that product. And then I put a bit here and a bit there, and then once it's on the vehicle and get things going, I'll put a drop of real live engine oil in there. So anyway, that's about it. Everything's coming along good, and another day half shot and we're back in business.